and fighting the devil. It's not like you're going out and street preaching, which you may do, but it's not like you're out there winning some social media battle. It's not like you're wearing some t-shirt to a pride rally that you're going to make a statement. All that's well and good and fine. But when Paul talks about you as a Christian standing firm, the first thing he says is learn to stand firm against your own pride, against your own selfishness, against your own ego, whatever it may be, and learn to live in harmony with everybody else inside the church. That's a fight in and of itself. You're going to have to learn to love people. You're going to have to learn to consider others as more important than yourself. You're going to have to consider look out for the interest of others. You're going to have to put your own ego in check. You're going to have to put yourself behind them. You're going to have to take a page from Christ, who did not consider it robbery to become human, but came and took on human flesh and dwelt among us and laid that life down. You're going to have to check your attitude. That's a massive, massive battle, but it's not the type of battle you think. So if you want to stand firm as a Christian, start there. Determine to stand against anything in your life that brings division with another believer. There's you a fight. There's you something to stand against. That, well, so-and-so did this, so-and-so did that, I just don't like them, I don't want to be... That's not standing firm as a Christian. That's giving in to sin. That's yielding to temptation. Don't do it. So Paul says, if you want to stand firm as a Christian, do it like this. Live in harmony in the Lord. Live in harmony with other believers. Now that's the first one. See if you can pick out the second thing Paul said in order to stand firm as a Christian. All right, rejoice. It's right there in verse 4, isn't it? Rejoicing is also not what we typically think of when we think of standing firm, right? We think of standing firm, somebody with a clenched fist and grit teeth, and they're just, I'm going to stand, and maybe they're even yelling and screaming, and I'm going to do this. Paul says, that's not what I mean by standing firm. Not only are you going to have to stand firm within the church, you're going to have to stand firm in the midst of your circumstances. How do you stand firm for Christ in the midst of your circumstances? That's the question. How do you do it? How do you stand firm for Christ in the midst of your circumstances? What's it say in verse 4? You rejoice. You rejoice. So something seemingly bad happens to you. What do? You rejoice. Who? In who? In the Lord. When? Always. And again, I'm going to say it. What? Rejoice. Yeah, there's a song that sings that. Because the reality is, this is again a person that is not being controlled by their own emotions. In the first, you have two women that are controlled by their emotions and they can't get along. And Paul says, you got to stand firm and you got to live in harmony. This is a person in the midst of their circumstances, their emotions have overrun them. And they're mad or they're angry or they're sobbing or why me or this isn't fair, pouters maybe. And they're just mumble and weepy and you name it. And Paul says that's not how you stand firm as a Christian. Because as a Christian, when you face difficult circumstances, no matter how bad it gets or how hard it gets, who do you still have? You have Christ. You have Jesus. He's still there. You remember Job? You may remember what happened to Job? A lot, that's true. That's pretty much the book of Job right there, yeah. He did not lose his wife. Boy, you missed that. Right off the very first thing you mentioned. He lost his house. He lost his cattle, his donkeys, his camels, his children, his health. He kept his wife, but she was really gripey, so we don't know if Job was okay with that or not. Had a really, really bad day. And his wife came up to him and said, are you still going to hold on to your integrity? Why don't you curse God and die? Great wife. Does anybody know what Job said to her? I'm just wondering if you remember. Yeah, you're a foolish woman. You speak like the foolish women. And then he said something else. That's pretty good, Marissa. He said, shall we accept good from the hand of the Lord and not accept adversity? The Lord has given. You know the next? The Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. That's Job not being ruled by his emotions, not being ruled by his feelings, not being overwhelmed by his circumstances, but grabbing a hold of his own feelings, his own emotions, and standing, forcing them to see the goodness of God even in the midst of bad situations. This is one of the ways where Christians blow it. I blow it. You blow it. Bad things happen, and instead of forcing ourselves to see the goodness of God and rejoicing, instead of doing that, we fall apart, we complain, we grumble, we weep, we pout, we moan, we slander, whatever it may be. And that's not standing firm. That's failing miserably as a Christian. We're called to rejoice in the Lord always. And Paul said, again, I'll say it, rejoice. So if you want to stand firm as a Christian, get over yourself and live in harmony in the church. And then when you go out in the world and you face difficult circumstances, get over yourself there too and rejoice. Because you feel like rejoicing? No. But because you're called to rejoice. Because you're called to. We sang a song Sunday. I was trying to think of it just now. There was a really great line in the hymn, and Leo will have to find it later, but we sang it Sunday morning. But the line in the hymn said something to the effect of, when I'm in trials and when circumstances are bad, let me see the cross and let me see the outcome of the cross and all that happens. And so we think about the cross for a second. What did the disciples think when they saw Jesus hanging on the cross dying? They thought it was over, didn't they? And this is the worst. This is the Messiah. This is the Christ. We have believed in him. We have followed him, and he is hanging on a cross, and he is dying. And he dies, and they pull him off the cross, and they put him in a tomb, and all the disciples are distraught and weeping, and it's the worst thing imaginable. Until 3 days later, what? He rose from the dead. He is alive. He is the King. He has saved us. He is going to live forever. He's going to go reign and sit at the right hand of the Father. And so what was the most terrible thing imaginable became the best thing ever. And now the cross is like it for us. At the moment it was happening, you could not have thought up a reason to rejoice. At the moment it was happening, you could not have come up with a reason to say this is good. It would not have made sense. You could not have figured it out. You would have looked at it and said, I don't get it. I don't know. How could this possibly be good? This can't be good. And 3 days later, it turned out to be the best thing ever. Total good. That's how we're redeemed. That's how we're forgiven. That's how we're saved. And that hymn said, so when I struggle trials and I can't see any earthly good in it, help me to view it with that kind of mentality that, we didn't think the cross was very good at first either. But look how good it was. We didn't think Joseph being sold by his brothers into Egypt was very good, but look how good that turned out. And this is what Paul is asking you to do when you stand firm. It's not standing firm against some belligerent atheist. It's standing firm against your own flesh that wants to complain and grumble and cry and everything else when life doesn't treat you the way you want it to treat you. So Paul says you're fighting a battle, stand firm. Get over yourself and live in harmony, and get over yourself and rejoice in life. Now, that's how you stand firm as a Christian. So there's two big ones. Well, there's another one. What's another one Paul says? How's another way you stand firm? What? Be gentle. And gentle for who? All men. So we talked about living in harmony inside the church. We talked about rejoicing inside our circumstances. And now we're talking about being gentle outside the church. Gentle. Anybody know what that word means? Sometimes it's translated meek. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are the gentle, for they shall inherit the earth. Does anybody know what gentle means? My dad was a horse trader. And if he came up and you said, hey, can we go out to the barn and ride horses? We always had kids who wanted to come out and ride horses. So we'd catch a horse. And if he told you, this horse is wild. You want to ride that horse? One of you would, but by and large, most of you would say, no, I do not want to ride the wild horse, right? I don't want to ride the horse that's crazy, that's going to run off bucking, kicking, and scrape me off on a tree or something. I don't want to ride the wild horse. And then I tell you, this horse is lazy. You want to ride the lazy horse? No, the lazy horse isn't fun to ride either. I've seen kids kick the snot out of a Shetland and go nowhere, right? I mean, just kick, 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 and the horse won't go anywhere, and pull his head, and he just kind of stands there and turns around. And you can't do anything on the horse because he's lazy. But the horse Dad always likes is he would say, this horse is broke. Now, broke doesn't mean that he's slow. It doesn't mean that he's lazy. It doesn't mean that he's weak. What does it mean when I say this horse is broke? He's trained, yeah. He's going to do what you tell him to do. That's the kind of horse you want to ride. That horse, we would say, is gentle. Is he weak? No. But he's under control. He is not given to follow the impulses of his heart. He's not lazy. He's not wild. But he is listening to whoever is giving him orders, and he's doing what he's told to do. Exactly how he's told to do it. That horse is meek. The greatest example of meekness or gentleness ever in the Bible, and you'll never even get close to it, was Jesus. Think about the day they arrested him. If you've heard that story before. They're in the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus has been praying all night, right? And he's been praying, Father, let this cup pass from me. Not my will, but yours be done. That's already being gentle right there, isn't it? That's already being meek. But then when they come to arrest him, they show up, and Judas is leading this Roman cohort. And they've got clubs, and they've got lanterns, and they've got swords. And they come up, and Jesus says, who do you seek? And they said, we want Jesus the Nazarene. And Jesus said, I am. Does anybody know what happened? They all fell on their faces. And then he said, who do you seek? How do you think they answered the second time? Jesus of Nazareth? I am he. Here's the point. That one man had total control and power over every single person in that garden. With a word, he put the entire army on their face. He could have done anything he wanted in that moment. And what did he do? He allowed them to arrest him. He allowed them to bind him. He allowed them to beat him, mock him, spit on him, pluck out his beard, punch him in the face, put him on trial 5 times, corruptly convict him, parade him before Pilate, flog him again, nail him to a cross, and ultimately put him on display before the world as a blasphemer. And he didn't have to let any of that happen. He was gentle. He was meek. Strength under control. Now, this is what Paul says, how he wants you to stand firm in the world. So that when you go out into the world and the world maligns you, those opponents Paul talked about earlier in chapter 2 or chapter 1, I think, they start attacking you and maligning you. Sometimes people think standing firm means punching back, right? I'm not giving in to you. I'm not going to take that. I'm fighting back. I'm going to stand up for what I believe. Is that what Paul said to do? He said you need to gain a reputation of being what? Gentle. You need a reputation of being gentle, that all men need to know. He's gentle. He's meek. He's submissive. He's strength under control. That needs to be what you're after. That's not easy to do. Jesus gave commands in the Sermon on the Mount. He said, if someone walks up to you and slaps you on the cheek, what? Turn the other to him. If somebody wants to sue you and take your shirt, give him your coat. If somebody forces you to go 1 mile, go 2. None of that is easy, is it? But where's the battle being fought? It's in here, isn't it? It's a battle against your own attitude. It's a battle against your own flesh, a battle against your own pride. I don't want to give in. I don't want to yield. I don't want to go another mile. I don't want to turn my cheek. I don't want to give him my coat. I don't want to. And Paul said, stand firm. You're not standing firm against them. You're standing firm against your own flesh. You're learning to live in harmony when it's not easy. You're learning to rejoice when it's not natural. And now you're learning to be meek when everything about you wants to revolt, resist, and fight back and argue and spit and stammer and cuss and scream. And Paul says, that's not how a Christian stands firm. A Christian stands firm in being like the Lord, not in doing what his flesh wants. And then Paul gives us, because at this point I think we need a reprieve. We're like, hold off. My goodness, you've already punched me in the face 3 times. You've told me I have to get over myself and live in harmony. You've told me I have to get over myself and rejoice in my circumstances. And you've told me I have to get over myself and be meek when I'm mistreated in the world. Why? Why would I do that? Why should I do that? How will that be worth it? And what's the encouragement Paul gives? Look at it. He gives you encouragement. How is that encouraging? All right, he takes care of us, but that's not all. How else is that encouraging? What? You won't have to deal with it long. He will reward you, right? He will care for you. He will make this all better. How great will it be to have lived like Jesus in this life, to go stand before Him? When you've been like Him and lived like Him and you've been in harmony like Him and you've rejoiced like Him and you've been meek like Him, to finally stand before Him, what a day that will be. To rejoice that I did what you said. But what if you live this life selfish, complaining, fighting back, and then He returns? It's not going to be a fun day, is it? What part of this did you not understand? Jesus would say. So Paul gives you some encouragement, all the encouragement a believer needs. The Lord is near. You're going to stand before the Lord. You're going to see the Lord. You're going to answer to the Lord. That's what you need to know. That's your motivation. That's your motivation for Christian living. The King is coming. And then he jumps back in the list. There's more here that he says that we need to stand firm. What's the next one? Don't be anxious. What's that, anxious? We hear a lot about anxiety today. What is anxious? What is anxiety? Worry. It's worry, yeah. And what does Paul say? Don't, right? Don't. Don't worry. Don't fret. Now, that's a pretty difficult command, but it's a command nonetheless, in which he says you're going to have to overcome, again, you. Because there's something about us that embraces worrying. I don't know what it is about the human condition that we find, comfort is not the right word, and satisfaction is not the right word, but there's something that attracts us to worrying. And I don't understand it. Jesus talked all about it in Matthew chapter 6. He asked this question, who of you can add a single hour to your life by worrying, right? I mean, that's like if you went to the doctor this week and they said, well, you've got cancer. You've got cancer and it's bad and there's really not any treatments we can give you. You've got about 3 months to live. But here's what I'm going to recommend. I think you should go home and worry. What good is that going to do? It's not going to do any good at all. It's not going to help. There's no power in worrying, right? There's no power in anxiety. It will accomplish nothing. There's no victory there. There's no worrying. Paul says don't do it. But we would look and say, yeah, but that's easier said than done, right? Because sometimes I don't want to worry, I just worry. Sometimes I don't want to have anxiety, I'm just anxious. I'm nervous about it, I'm scared about it. I don't want to be, but I am. So Paul understands that. Standing firm is to stand against that worry, but how do I do it? And he actually gives you the answer in verse 6. How do you fulfill that requirement to not worry? Prayer. Look at that. But in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Now, he gives you three things in your prayer. First is just prayer. And prayer is just simply when you approach God. Oftentimes, adoration, praising God, exalting God, recognizing God for who He is. But then he uses the word supplication. What is supplication? Anybody know? What? Louder. Leading. Pleading. Yeah. Begging. Right? That's okay. I'm all right with begging God. Pleading. Begging. God, please. And as you do it, what's the other word? Thanksgiving, right? Always thankful that He's listening to you. Thankful that you can come before Him. Thankful for all the ways He's helped in the past. And then Paul says, make your requests to God. So he says, don't worry. Instead, do what? Pray. So let's say I'm worried. My wife and kids are on the road. They're driving home, and they're driving, and it's a storm on the road, and I'm worried. And I'm worried that the storm might get them, or that some other driver's bad in the storm, or that something might happen. It might be a tornado. The wheels on the car might instantaneously fly off. They might drive off a ditch. They might roll 27 times. A semi could hit them. 3 deer could jump out and get them. They might get caught in a terrorist attack, a hijacking. I don't know what all could happen, right? And how much will it help them if I determine to sit in my chair and just worry about them until they get home? How much help will that give them? None, right? That's why when somebody gets on Facebook and says, I've had this horrible, went to the doctor, this is so bad, they've gave me this illness, or I lost my loved one, my dad died this week or whatever. You don't ever see anybody get on Facebook and say, hey, I'm worrying for you, right? Because they know it means nothing, right? It won't help. But what does help? Prayer. Why does that help? Well, yeah, because He's real, He's God, and He controls everything. And Paul said, instead of worrying, I want you to fight back your flesh. Your flesh wants to worry. Your flesh wants to be anxious. I want you to stand firm against that. And the way you're going to stand firm against that is by praying. So those things you're worried about, those things you're anxious about, I want you to pick those requests up and I want you to lay them on God. I want you to take them to Him. We sang the song, and Daniel may have picked it because of this verse, so I lay it all on Jesus. For He who bore my blame can bear each care I name. If He can bear all the sin of all the elect for all time on the cross, I promise you He can handle your little bitty affliction. He can handle your little request. You can bring it to Him and say, Jesus, would you bear this for me? This circumstance is scaring me. I'm worried about it. Would you bear this? Can I hand it to you? Can I put you in charge of it? Can I let you have it? I mean, you already bore all my sin. It's an infinite amount of weight you can bear. Would you bear this? Paul said, that's how you fight it. And he says, if you'll do that, what does he say will happen in verse 7? The peace of God will guard your heart and your mind. Notice this, though. He says the peace of God, and then he describes the peace of God. He actually describes what the peace of God is like. And what does he say? What does that mean? All right, you can't even think about how good it is. That word comprehension there is literally a word that has to do with your thoughts. Things you think about, your mind. And the word surpasses there is a word that means bigger, okay? Here's the problem with worry and anxiety. Most of the time what it is it's your mind is running away with itself. Your mind is just going. And it's going after every possibility, every contingency, and you just run into what it could. And maybe you're young and you don't deal with it now, but when you get older, it'll happen the second you turn off the lights and put your head on the pillow. All of those things just start running through your mind, the what ifs and the what coulds, and this could go bad and this could go wrong. And I mean, it'll just run. And you'll hear people say, I don't know how to shut it off. I don't know how to stop it. I wish I had a switch. I could just turn it off. Paul says that God's peace, when he says surpasses all comprehension, he doesn't just mean that it's beyond what you can understand. He means it is bigger, better, powerful, more stronger than your thoughts. It's bigger than your comprehensions. It's bigger than what you can think out, because that's part of the problem with worry and anxiety is we can't see the solution. We can't figure out how to make it work, and our mind is just running, trying to see a solution, trying to solve it, trying to fix it. And Paul said, your mind isn't big enough or strong enough to fix this problem. But who is? God. And when you lay it on God, His peace is stronger and bigger than all your thinking processes. He's bigger than that. He can lay your thoughts to rest. And he says that God's peace then, when you put it on Him and you lay it on Him and you entrust it to Him, that His peace will guard you. He says it'll guard your heart and it'll guard your mind. That's your thoughts and your emotions. Those things that are running wild and you feel like you can't rein them in, you have to take that to the Lord. And you have to take that whole bucket of that nasty mess, all your thoughts and all your worries and you have to pick up that whole bucket and you got to tell Him, I cannot carry this. I cannot see an end to this. I can't shut this off. You have got to bear this for me. And you have got to take it to Him. I don't mean it's some sort of like token prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul. Where I just said it. I'm talking about you literally through prayer taking your burden and bearing and giving it to God. Take this. Take this. I'm going to lay this on you. And Paul says that's how you overcome that. That's how you overcome that worry. You've got to fight that battle. That's a Christian standing firm. Not giving in to the enemy's lies, not giving in to the what ifs and the doubts that's what Satan does. He loves to sow those things in your mind. He loves it. What did he do with Eve? Has God said you can't eat from any tree in this garden? Has God said this? That's what he loves to do. Don't do it. Take those and lay them on the Lord. You've got to fight that battle. That's standing firm. So we stand firm against division, right? Because we're in harmony. We stand firm against despair, we might say. We're going to rejoice. We stand firm against defiance. We're going to be gentle, right? And we're going to stand firm against worry. We're going to lay our burdens on the Lord. We're going to pray to the Lord, right? And then there's still another way we stand firm. Finally, here we go. Brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is any excellence and anything worthy of praise, what does he say? Dwell on these things. What's it mean to dwell on something? Focus on it, think about it, right? You just dwell on it over and over and over and over and over. You ever met somebody that was dwelling on something that they wouldn't let it go? And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go talk to this person because they just dwell on it, right? They dwell on it over and over and over and over. They dwell on it every day. It's just they can't let it. It's all they're going to talk about. They're just dwelling on it, right? Or maybe it's something like I was talking about earlier, the Dallas Cowboys. He just dwells on the Dallas Cowboys. That's all he can talk about is the Dallas Cowboys this and the Dallas Cowboys that, right? They just dwell on it. Well, Paul said dwelling is a good thing, but what you dwell on is how a Christian stands firm. And a Christian stands firm by dwelling on what? What does a Christian dwell on? Well, there you have it. That's true. Yeah. There's really only one that fits all of those criteria. What's true, what's honorable, what's right, what's pure, what's lovely, what's of good repute, what's excellent, and what's worthy of praise. 8 things there he says you ought to be dwelling on, and your name just escaped me. Elsie. Yeah, all 8 of those point to Jesus, right? I mean, focus on that. Dwell on that. That's a battle you fight every day, isn't it? Especially in our culture. Man, there are more bells and whistles and neon signs and flashing lights and hey, look at me's in our world. They are everywhere. And they are constantly calling for your attention. Some of them are outright evil. Some of them aren't evil. They're just distracting. But they're all there. And they're calling for you constantly. And so the battle you have to fight, you have to stand firm, right, with your time. You have to stand firm with your focus. You have to stand firm with what you're going to dwell on. You have to stand firm with your attention. This is one of the reasons, you guys may not realize, it's one of the reasons that we intentionally, when you leave KFC and you come in here, we intentionally try to stretch the length here. We intentionally hold you in here longer, and we put aside the bells and whistles, and we put aside the catchy video tunes, and we put aside all that stuff, because we're trying to teach you to hold your own attention. Our culture has taught you to not hold your attention. Our culture and the way we grow up has told you that if I want your attention, I'm going to have to go, ha, woo, yay, hey, ha, ha, and constantly pull your attention. That's how you keep Doreen's attention, right? But that's what you've been trained to do, because every cartoon you've ever watched, every commercial that came on, every anything has told you if it's important, it will come with a loud clashing pop, a flashing light, maybe a spray of water in the face, whatever. But when I'm supposed to pay attention, it will grab my attention. That's what you've been trained to do. That's not biblical. That's the world. What you have to do, and part of growing up and part of maturing, is learning to hold your own darn attention, right? To learn to say, you know what? I'm going to fight through this. I'm going to suck it up. I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to listen. I'm going to learn this. It matters. And that's what Paul says is part of the Christian battle. Learning and making yourself focus on what you have to focus on. It's real easy to watch a movie. It's real easy to watch it used to be Saturday morning cartoons when I was a kid. It's real easy to watch some reel on the internet that just, hits you with 15 seconds of funny after funny after funny or what. I mean, that's easy. It's easy to scroll a social media and just see clip after clip after clip after clip. That's good. That just holds your attention. That's easy. What's labor is to say, no, I'm going to open this word and I'm going to focus on this and I'm going to dwell on this because this is true and this is honorable and this is right and this is pure and this is lovely and this is of good repute and this is excellent and this is worthy of praise. And I'm going to dwell here. That's a battle, isn't it? Well, that's how a Christian stands firm. You stand firm in that fight for your attention. You've got to fight there. And then Paul gives you one more. Verse 9. See if you can pick out the other place we stand firm. Practice. Yeah. These things you've learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. That means putting into practice the things you learn, the things you see. That's part of standing firm, isn't it? That's part of fighting the battle. Nobody is perfect at first. Nobody wins at first. You go into the battle, and a lot of times you get beat and you lose, so what do? You practice, right? That's part of standing firm. So if we're going to listen to what Paul said, and this is how we stand firm, I'm going to practice harmony. I'm going to practice it. When I go to church, I'm going to practice getting along with people. I'm going to practice being in harmony with people. I'm going to practice in my conversations that I have with people being harmony with them. The conversation is a beautiful thing and a good thing, and I'm going to practice that. It might not always work immediately, but that's what I'm going to fight for that. Then I'm going to practice rejoicing in my circumstances. So tomorrow, or even tonight, when whatever happens, I'm going to practice rejoicing. So if something happens that I like or don't like, I'm going to rejoice. I'm going to practice it. I might not be good at it at first, but I'm going to stand firm. I'm going to practice. I'm going to practice gentleness, right? If you've got siblings at home, that's easy. I'm going to practice being gentle with my siblings. I'm going to practice turning the other cheek. I'm going to practice forgiving them. I'm going to practice not just beating them up because I'm bigger or stronger, right? I'm going to practice being gentle with my siblings. I'm going to practice praying when I'm worried. So the next thing I'm worried about or scared, I'm going to lay that burden on. I'm going to practice it. I might not be good at it first, and sometimes I might lay that burden and I might try to pick it right back up when I'm done praying. It takes practice, but I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm going to practice giving my attention to Jesus. I'm going to practice that. You have to, right? We can always go back to the cross-country analogy, but we can skip that. We can go to football. We can go to baseball or basketball. Everybody likes basketball, right? No? What do you like? Nothing. Okay, so you're going to practice doing nothing. I don't think either one of your parents are going to let you do that, right? They won't, yeah. So, sorry, they're going to pick what you practice. There's a whole other sermon in that. Either pick what you're going to practice or somebody will pick it for you, right? It's kind of like your nose. Either pick it or somebody's going to pick it for you, okay? So, you have to practice these things. And like basketball, right? Everybody wants to go up and shoot the great shot or make the layup or win the game or dribble or steal the ball, whatever makes you feel good on a basketball court. But it's all those hours of running up and down the court where the coach is making you run. All those hours of doing the drills, the countless shooting, how many free throws before practice is over, or how many three-pointers. And you're like, oh, I'm not here to practice. This is exhausting. It's tiring. But you do it for an outcome. And we've learned that in our culture with sports. We've got it. I mean, and parents get it with sports. Parents are like, oh, you got to go to practice. That's what kills us on Wednesday nights. Some coach will schedule a practice. Well, you got to go to practice. You know, you're not going to be good. You're not going to play. Well, Paul says, if you want to practice something, practice these things. Harmony, rejoicing, meekness, praying instead of worrying, giving your attention to Jesus. Those are the 5 things you practice. Those are the things you stand firm in. Those are the things you stand for, and you don't let anybody take from you, right? That's not an outward battle, is it? That's an inward battle. That's how I'm trying to fight the Christian battle. Does that make sense? You got them? Right? What's one of the things you got to practice? Rejoicing. All right, what's another thing you got to practice? I wasn't pointing at you. Something else. Yeah. You can look at your Bible if that will help. Perhaps we should talk about attention again, right? Giving attention, right? Why don't we practice that? Yeah. Your mom's going to help you now. Because, yeah, she will too. I know your mom. What's another one? What are you going to practice, Ramey? Harmony. Yeah, getting along. What else are you going to practice, Coda? Prayer. Instead of? Yeah, instead of worrying, anxious. What's another thing you practice? What? Being pure. Yeah, that's true. Focusing on that. Yeah, that would be a good one. Gentleness, right? Turning the other cheek, going the extra mile. Those are things Christians have to practice those things, but that's where we stand firm, that I'm going to get good at this, right? That's where we stand. All right, let's pray tonight. Miss Cates, practice prayer.
How I love the voice of Jesus on the cross of Calvary. He declares his work is finished. He has spoken this hope to me. Though the sun has ceased its shining, though the war appeared as lost, Christ has triumphed over evil. It was finished upon that cross. Now the curse it has been broken. Jesus paid the price for me. For the pardon he has offered, great the welcome that I receive. receive. Boldly I approach the Father, clothed in Jesus' righteousness. There is no more guilt to carry. It was finished upon that cross. Death was once my great opponent. Fear once had a hold on me. But the Son who died to save us chose that we would be free indeed. Death was once my great opponent. Fear once had a hold on me. But the Son who died to save us rose that we would be free indeed. Yes, he rose that we would be free indeed. Free from every plan of darkness, free to live and free to love. Death is dead and Christ is risen. It was finished upon that cross. And onward to eternal glory, to my Savior and my God. I rejoice in Jesus' victory. It was finished upon that cross. It was finished upon that cross. It was finished upon that cross.